Can a skeptic and a believer unite to face an unimaginable terror? In the heart of Deadwood, an ancient evil stirs. Will they uncover its secrets in time? Dive into The Exorcist's notebook and journey into a world where fear takes form. Now, as we prepare to dive into our story, make sure you're comfortable. Are you ready? It's story time. The town of Deadwood was a study in contrasts. Nestled in the heart of a dense forest, it was a quaint, picturesque place with its cobblestone streets, charming Victorian houses, and the ever-present scent of pine in the air. Yet there was an undercurrent of something else, something that lay beneath the surface, like a secret whispered in hushed tones. Sarah, the town's historian, sat in the local library, engrossed in a pile of dusty old books. Her eyes, sharp and analytical, scanned the pages, searching for patterns, for anomalies. She was a woman of logic, of reason, and she believed in the power of facts. The strange occurrences in Deadwood, however, were beginning to defy her rational explanations. Across town, a train pulled into the station, its whistle piercing the quiet afternoon. From it stepped a man, his figure cloaked in a simple black cassock, a silver cross hanging from his neck. Father John had arrived in Deadwood. His eyes, weary yet determined, took in the town, sensing the undercurrent that others failed to see. In the days that followed, the town of Deadwood seemed to shift. Pets disappeared, only to be found in places they couldn't have reached on their own. Electronic devices flickered and died without reason. And the townsfolk, they whispered of shadows that moved in the night, of a chill that wasn't there before. Sarah, ever the skeptic, began to investigate. She interviewed the townsfolk, her recorder capturing their stories, their fears. She plotted data, drew charts, but the pattern eluded her. It was like trying to catch smoke with bare hands. Father John, on the other hand, walked the streets of Deadwood, his rosary beads clicking softly against each other. He visited the local church, its wooden pews worn with time, its stained glass windows casting a kaleidoscope of colors on the stone floor. He knelt, prayed, his voice a soft murmur in the silence. Their paths crossed on a cool evening. Sarah, her notebook filled with disjointed pieces of information, met Father John, his eyes filled with a quiet resolve. Their conversation was a dance of words, a clash of beliefs. "Father, do you really believe that there's something supernatural happening in Deadwood?" Sarah asked, her voice laced with skepticism. "I do, Miss Sarah," Father John replied, his voice steady. "I've seen it before, the signs. They're subtle, but they're there." "And you think praying will help?" Sarah asked, her tone not mocking but genuinely curious. "Prayer, Miss Sarah, is not just words. It's a weapon, a shield. It's what we have when all else fails," Father John said, his gaze never leaving hers. Sarah was silent for a moment, her mind wrestling with the idea. She was a woman of science, of facts. But the fear in the eyes of the townsfolk, the strange occurrences, they were real. And maybe, just maybe, there was more to the world than what met the eye. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Sarah and Father John stood in silence, two individuals bound by a town and a mystery that was beginning to unfold. The quiet town of Deadwood was stirring, and as the darkness deepened, so did the sense of unease. The town of Deadwood was no longer the same. A palpable sense of dread hung in the air, as tangible as the morning mist that clung to the cobblestone streets. The townsfolk, once jovial and carefree, now moved with a wary caution, their eyes darting to the shadows that seemed to grow longer with each passing day. Sarah, the historian, the skeptic, found herself caught in the grip of a fear she couldn't explain. She continued her research, her fingers tracing the faded ink of ancient texts, her mind grappling with tales of occult practices and a malevolent entity that once plagued Deadwood. The logical part of her mind rebelled against the idea, but the fear in the eyes of the townsfolk, the chill that seemed to seep into her bones, they were real. Across town, in the solitude of the local church, Father John prepared for a battle he knew was coming. His days were filled with prayer and fasting, his nights with dreams of shadows and symbols. He began to teach the townsfolk, his voice echoing in the hushed silence of the church, the words of prayers and the strokes of protective symbols etched into their minds. Despite their differences, Sarah and Father John found themselves drawn together, two sides of the same coin. Their meetings were filled with heated debates and shared insights, a dance of logic and faith. Sarah, with her historical knowledge and analytical mind, and Father John, with his unwavering faith and understanding of the supernatural, formed an unlikely alliance. Their combined efforts led them to a chilling discovery. The entity that haunted Deadwood was an ancient evil, banished centuries ago by the town's ancestors. It was now stirring, its slumber disturbed, seeking to reclaim what it once lost. The revelation was followed by a terrifying confrontation. It was a night like any other, the moon hanging low in the sky, the stars twinkling with a cold indifference. Sarah and Father John stood in the town square, the silence around them broken by the rustling of leaves. And then it came. A gust of wind that seemed to carry the whispers of the damned, a shadow that stretched and twisted, taking a form that was neither man nor beast. The entity had made its presence known. Sarah, the skeptic, could deny it no longer. The supernatural was real, and it was in Deadwood. Father John, the exorcist, felt a chill run down his spine, a sense of foreboding that he hadn't felt in years. The battle had begun. As the sun rose, casting long shadows that danced on the cobblestone streets, Sarah and Father John stood in silence. The town of Deadwood was no longer just a quaint, picturesque place. It was a battleground, a place where the lines between the natural and supernatural blurred, and they were the town's only hope. The confrontation with the entity left an indelible mark on the town of Deadwood. The once tranquil town was now a cauldron of fear and uncertainty. The townsfolk, their faces pale and eyes wide, whispered in hushed tones, their words carried away by the wind that seemed to howl with an eerie delight. Sarah, the historian, the skeptic, was no longer the woman she used to be. The encounter with the entity had shattered her world, forcing her to accept the existence of the supernatural. She found herself drawn to Father John's teachings, her mind, once rigid and unyielding, now open to the mysteries of the unseen world. Father John, the exorcist, the man of faith, found himself grappling with the ghosts of his past. The failed exorcism that haunted his dreams was a grim reminder of the stakes they were playing with. He found solace in prayer, his voice a soft whisper in the silence of the church, his words a plea for strength and guidance. The preparations for the battle against the entity were a race against time. Sarah and Father John, their alliance forged in the crucible of fear and uncertainty, worked tirelessly. They gathered supplies, their hands moving with a grim determination, setting up protective symbols around the town, their eyes reflecting the resolve that had become their armor. But as they prepared, the entity grew stronger. It was like a storm gathering force, its dark clouds casting a shadow over Deadwood. The townsfolk, already on edge, started acting out, their fears manipulated by the entity, leading to conflicts and chaos. The showdown, when it came, was a terrifying spectacle. The entity, its power now fully awakened, unleashed a fury that shook the very foundations of Deadwood. The air crackled with energy, the ground trembled, and the sky, once a canvas of serene blue, was now a swirling mass of dark clouds. Sarah and Father John stood their ground, their faces set in grim determination. They chanted prayers, their voices rising above the chaos, their faith a beacon of light in the engulfing darkness. The confrontation was a test of their resolve, a testament to their courage, and a chilling preview of the battle that lay ahead. As dawn broke, casting a soft glow over the ravaged town, Sarah and Father John stood amidst the wreckage, their bodies weary but spirits unbroken. The battle had begun, and they knew they were in the eye of the storm. The town of Deadwood, once a picture of tranquility, was now a battleground, and they were its only hope. The aftermath of the showdown was a grim reminder of the battle that lay ahead. The town of Deadwood, once a haven of peace and tranquility, was now a canvas of chaos and fear. The townsfolk, their faces etched with terror, looked to Sarah and Father John for guidance, their eyes pleading for a semblance of hope. Sarah, the historian, the skeptic-turned-believer, found herself in the eye of the storm. Her transformation was a testament to the power of faith and the resilience of the human spirit. She delved deeper into the town's history, her mind piecing together the fragments of the past, her heart beating in sync with the pulse of the town. Father John, the exorcist, the man of faith, found himself on the precipice of despair. The entity's growing power was a chilling echo of his past, a reminder of the exorcism that had gone horribly wrong. His faith, once his shield, now wavered, the cracks widening with each passing day. The preparations for the final battle were a race against time. Sarah and Father John, their alliance stronger than ever, worked tirelessly. They fortified the town's defenses, their hands moving with a grim determination. They rallied the townsfolk, their voices echoing in the silence, their words a beacon of hope in the engulfing darkness. But as they prepared, the entity continued its reign of terror. It whispered in the ears of the townsfolk, its words a poison that sowed seeds of discord. It moved in the shadows, its presence a chilling reminder of the battle that was to come. The revelation, when it came, was a blow that shook them to their core. The entity was not just a random malevolent force, it was a part of Deadwood, a dark chapter in the town's history that had been forgotten. It had returned to claim what it believed was rightfully its own. As the sun set, casting long shadows that danced on the cobblestone streets, Sarah and Father John stood in the town square, their faces set in grim determination. The revelation had changed everything, but it had also given them a plan, a glimmer of hope. The town of Deadwood, once a picture of tranquility, was now on the brink of a battle that would determine its fate. And as the moon rose, casting an eerie glow over the town, Sarah and Father John knew that the storm was about to break. The final battle for Deadwood began as the first rays of dawn pierced the darkness. The entity, its power at its peak, launched its attack, its form a swirling mass of shadows that seemed to consume the light. The town, once a haven of peace, was now a battleground, its fate hanging in the balance. Sarah, the historian, the skeptic-turned-believer, stood at the forefront of the battle. Her heart pounded in her chest, a wild drumbeat that echoed the chaos around her. But her eyes, those sharp, analytical eyes, held a spark of determination. She guided the townsfolk, her voice rising above the cacophony, her words a beacon of hope in the engulfing darkness. Father John, the exorcist, the man of faith, stood his ground. His past failures, the haunting memories of the exorcism gone wrong, they all faded away, replaced by a resolve that was as unyielding as the stone walls of the church. His voice, usually soft and gentle, was now a commanding roar, leading the exorcism, challenging the entity with a fervor that seemed to shake the very heavens. The townsfolk, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear, rallied under their guidance. They chanted the prayers Father John had taught them, their voices a chorus that rose and fell with the ebb and flow of the battle. They stood united, their collective will a shield against the entity's onslaught. The climax of the battle was a spectacle that would be etched into the annals of Deadwood's history. Sarah, using her knowledge of the town's history and the entity, found a weakness, a chink in the entity's armor. Father John, seizing the opportunity, led the final charge, his voice a thunderous echo that seemed to reverberate through the entity. And then, with a final deafening roar, the entity was banished. It dissipated like smoke, its form twisting and writhing before disappearing, leaving behind a silence that was as profound as it was relieving. The aftermath of the battle was a scene of quiet resilience. Deadwood, though scarred and battered, stood victorious. The townsfolk, their faces streaked with dirt and sweat, wore smiles of relief, their eyes reflecting a newfound strength. Sarah and Father John stood amidst the wreckage, their bodies weary but spirits unbroken. They had faced the storm and emerged victorious. Their alliance, born out of necessity, had evolved into a bond forged in the crucible of battle. As the sun set, casting long shadows that danced on the cobblestone streets, Sarah and Father John looked at the town they had saved. Deadwood, once a picture of tranquility, had weathered the storm. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a symbol of the power of faith and unity. As our story comes to a close, let the lull of this soothing ambiance continue to cradle you further into your journey of calmness and rest. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your relaxation and sleep routine tonight. Remember, each day brings a new story, and each night brings a fresh chance to regenerate, to dream, and to become more of who you are. As this background sound lulls you further into sleep, I hope you find peace, comfort, and a well-deserved rest. Good night, dear listener. Until our next story, sleep well and dream beautifully.